So hello, welcome to hopefully I think the last part of chapter 1. And we're going to start by talking about symbols. Symbols are not an obvious or traditional part of Faery Craft, which is mostly concerned with the world of nature and the other world. However, there are a number of symbols that have particular associations relevant to fairy. Symbols change and evolve in their meaning over time, and if you wish to add your own personal significance and insights to those mentioned here, that's completely acceptable as long as they resonate with the symbol's innate energy. As you'll see below, many of the associations connected with these symbols are surprisingly recent, and they all hold a number of equally relevant meanings. So the first is the septagram. The seven-pointed star, known as a septagram or heptagram, is used by many people who walk a fairy path to represent their beliefs, where it is known as the fairy star or elven star. However, this is a very recent usage of this ancient symbol, originating in the 1980s with the Elf Queen's Daughters, a group originating in the hippie movement of the 1970s, California, who believed themselves to be elves incarnated into human form to help guide the planet towards peaceful ways. This inspired many to awaken to their own natures as incarnated magical beings, such as the Silver Elves, who are interviewed later in this book, and the Otherkin movement that emerged in the 1990s. Use the septagram as their identifying symbol. One of the oldest uses of this star is to represent the sphere of Venus and the power of love within the Kabbalah. It can also be found within Christian tradition as a symbol of protection, representing the perfection of God, hence its appearance inverted on some sheriff's badges in the States. The recent nature of its association with fairy does not, however, detract from its significance in this role. The number 7 and things of a sevenfold nature are deeply significant in understanding the patterns of the world and the other world. It is fascinating to note that in most accounts of folklore of people being taken away to fairy, it is for a period of 7 months or 7 years, and through ancient myths, the number 7 constantly occurs in matters relating to fairy. Not only can the septagram represent the 7 planets, the 7 days of the week, and the 7 colors of the rainbow, it can also stand for the 7 directions that we use in our work with fairy, and other paths that acknowledge the importance of above, below, and within. It can be used as such in the structure of this book, taking as the chapter headings 7 qualities needed in Faery Craft, which correspond to the 7 points of the star, the directions, and the elements. For this purpose, the points have been labeled sun, moon, stars, earth, air, fire, and water. The sun in this case represents the inner light of self, and the within, and the quality of honor. The moon represents the below and magic. The stars represent the above and connection. Earth is trust, air is knowledge, fire is inspiration, and water is joy. As the book progresses, you'll grow to understand not only why these qualities are so important, but how they relate to the directions, as well as how they relate to the contents of the book. The sacred number 3 can also be found within the mathematical pattern of the star, as when it is drawn point to point, every third point connects. This shows that, through its use as a sacred symbol within fairy traditions, is extremely recent. The relevance is inherent within its very structure. So, the pentagram. The 5-pointed star, or pentagram, has become very recognizable as a symbol of pagan beliefs, most particularly Wicca-based paths. Within this context, it represents the balance of power of the 5 elements of earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. It is used for both invoking and banishing the powers of these elements, as well as for protection. However, this symbol has been in use for many thousands of years by many different cultures. The Pythagoreans, to whom it symbolized mathematical perfection, used the pentagram as a secret symbol by which to identify each other. They identified the 5 points of the star with the 5 elements, which continues to this day. Though many Christians may look down upon this symbol due to its overuse in kitschy horror flick, as well as its association with pagan and magical paths, early Christians actually saw the pentagram as symbolic of the 5 wounds of Christ, and a sacred symbol of universal truth. I have a little bit of a list, but I'm trying really hard. Though the earliest evidence of this symbol can be found in ancient Babylonian pottery fragments from 3500 BC, in truth, the symbol has been with us since the evolution of life. The mathematical pattern it encapsulates is seen throughout the natural world, in flowers, in the core of an apple, even in our own bodies. Of course, the innate relationship with the elements and perfection in nature gives this symbol great relevance in fairy craft, as does its effectiveness as a symbol of perfection. Or protection, I'm sorry. One more fascinating detail is its use in the grimoire tradition for summoning fairy beings. The grimoire magicians would use this very similar method to summon fairy beings, normally to help in the hunt for hidden treasure, as they would for angels and demons, only instead of a constraining triangle outside the circle, they would use a pentagram. As grimoire expert David Rankine notes in Grimoire's Fairies and Treasure, even the magicians were sensible enough not to try and apply the same rules to fairies as to demons, recognizing that fairies were already far closer to the physical realm and able to manifest at will rather than needing to be summoned, as was the case for many other spiritual creatures. So, Triskele. The Triskele, or Triskelion, is an ancient Celtic symbol that can be seen to have many meanings within its obvious triple nature. The name of the symbol translates to three-legged, and indeed it is a form of the Manx flag. The spirals do take the appearance of legs in motion. We may think of it, then, as a symbol of cycles that never end, the journey of life, death, and rebirth that is constantly in motion. The three spiral arms of the Triskele may be seen to represent the past, present, and future, with the center showing that we stand in connected awareness of all that is, has been, and will be. The number 3 is of great magical significance and can be seen repeatedly and in many forms in fairy lore. We see it in the triple-formed goddesses such as the Morrigan, Hecate, and the Fates themselves, in the triple crossroads, the paths leading to Hell, Heaven, and Elfland, in the traditional 3 wishes of fairy tales, in the 3 guesses to the riddle, the 3 colors of red, black, and white, the 3 realms of land, sea, and sky, and even the elements, earth, air, and water, with fire being the divine spark that dwells within. This ancient symbol resembles the patterns of water as they flow around obstacles in a river, or the ripples that are sent out when a stone is thrown into a pond. Indeed, spirals can be found throughout nature, from the DNA that carries seemingly impossible amounts of coded information to the largest galaxy. As above, so below. The world of nature holds much wisdom, and that is reflected in this symbol. We should always remember that we stand in the center of our own world, sending out ripples of consequence with every action. So, the equal-armed cross. The equal-armed cross within a circle is the alchemical symbol for Earth, and is used within Kabbalah to represent the material realm of Malkuth. As a symbol for Earth, its significance to fairy craft is obvious, not the least because the symbol actually appears naturally on the fairy stone, known as starlight. We can also see this symbol as representing the sacred crossroads between the worlds. In Celtic myth and folklore, there are many tales of humans and fairy beings meeting at crossroads, such as the Cornish tale about Cherry of Zenor, and the famous Scottish ballad about Thomas the Rhymer. It can also be seen as the meeting place of the paths leading to the 4 cities of Phalius, Gorius, Murius, and Phineus, which, according to the 11th century collection of ancient Irish folklore called the Book of Invasions, are the cities from which the godlike children of Danu originated. These 4 cities are connected to the 4 elements of earth, air, fire, and water, and the sacred hollows of the children of Danu. The symbol can be seen to represent balance between the elements, and the position of the self as being always in the center of the directions, protected by the circle. If you think of the symbol as being 2 lines crossing rather than 4 lines meeting, then it can be seen as a meeting of 2 worlds, or 2 polarities. In this case, our world and the other world. The worlds are brought together to meet in the cross and brought together by the worlds are brought together to meet in the cross and brought together in harmony by the circle, an ancient symbol for perfection. So the 4-leaved clover. The 4-leaved clover is nature's own symbol for, or perhaps from, the fairy realm. Though most people know that to find one of these rare mutations is considered to be good luck, many have forgotten that they also said to bring the ability to see fairy and herald the presence of nearby fairy beings. In many old tales, there is mention of an ointment that enables true sight of the other world, including the ability to see through glamour, of which it is said that 4-leaf clover is a chief ingredient. In the old tale, The 4-leaf Clover, a milkmaid is given extraordinary vision of mischievous piskies through accidentally placing some in her hat. And looking it over by the candlelight, she found a bunch of 3-leafed grass, and one stem with 4 leaves. She knew it was no strange thing that she should see the small people. That is from Popular Romances of the West of England. Conversely, this rare gem of the natural world is also said to bring protection from the fairies. We can interpret from both these meanings that the four-leaf clover gives one a certain amount of power within and over fairy. It is also interesting to note that from above, the four-leaf clover resembles the equal-armed cross surrounded by a circle. So, I'm going to do a separate video for the end of the chapter, which it'll be really short, but then we can move on to chapter 2.